Hare Krishna, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhu.
All right, okay. Okay, wait, I need to fix some things. We are in Bhakti Aloka. We are in Bhakti Aloka. Wait, give me a minute. I'm super confused now. Okay. Okay, I think I completed the first bit, Atyahara. I think I completed the chapter on Atyahara. Let me take up this. I might have started with Prayasa, but anyway, I'll go through it again. Something's wrong. Prayasa, over-endeavoring. If prayasa, over-endeavoring is not given up, devotion will never arise, meaning pure devotion service will never arise. The word prayasa means endeavor, useless labor. Spiritual life is nothing other than pure devotion unto the Supreme Lord. Devotion cannot be defined by any symptoms other than full surrender and subordination unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Full surrender and subordination are the natural, eternal, constitutional duties of the living entities. So full surrender and subordination refers to Shadanga Sharanagati, the 6 items of surrender. Therefore, only devotional service is the natural propensity or inherent occupation of every living entity. In one's inherent occupation, there is no need of prayasa, endeavor. Still, in the living entity's conditioned state, there is a need for a small amount of prayasa in order to cultivate devotional service. It's a small amount of endeavor in order to cultivate devotional service. Except this little endeavor, all other kinds of endeavor are unfavorable for devotional service. Endeavor is of 2 kinds: Jnana Prayasa and Karma Prayasa. Jnana Prayasa refers to the endeavor to attain the results of Jnana. Karma Prayasa is the endeavor to attain the results of karma. There's no question of adharma prayasa, endeavor to engage in activities of the adharma, activities which go against the teachings of the Vedic scriptures. Jnana prayasa, feeling of oneness or kevaladvaita arises. This is also known as sayujya, merging, or brahma nirvana, absorption in the Supreme. Jnana prayasa is hostile to spiritual life. This is explained in the Vedic literature, Mundaka Upanishad, in the following words: Nayam atma pra vachanena labhyo nam nethasa na shrutena yam me vaishya vrinate tena labhyas tasyesha atma vrinate tanam swam. The Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanations, by vast intelligence, or even by much hearing, shrutena, hearing. In this technical context, it refers to whom he himself chooses. To such a person, he manifests his own form. So the whole idea is one can attain full spiritual realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead only if you do some activity by which he chooses you as a person fit to be given revelation about his personal nature. And that means one has to engage in devotional service. Because if one does not engage in devotional service, and the Supreme Lord does not value you. We know in Bhagavad Gita, there are 4 types of pious souls who approach the Lord. Artho Jigyasura Arthati Jnani Cha Bharatarshava. That Jnani is a person who has fully surrendered unto the Lord. Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate. That Jnani and the Jnanavan are the same. He's a person who has surrendered unto the Supreme Lord. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Suturlabha. He understands that Lord Vasudeva is the ultimate controller. He's the ultimate all-pervading supreme controller. Therefore, I should simply engage in devotion service unto his lotus feet. Therefore, acharyas like Ramanujacharya, while explaining this particular Upanishadic verse, they invoke that. And there, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Esham Jnani Niti Yukta Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate. Amongst these 4, it is this enlightened devotee of mine who is most dear to me, because he is thinking of me and I am thinking of him. So from that we understand that he chooses one who surrenders, the Supreme Lord chooses one who surrenders unto the Supreme Lord in knowledge and devotion. We know this from Bhagavad Gita also. From another verse, Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. In the Bhagavad Gita Chatushlaki, that buddha bhava samanvita, the enlightened souls with full knowledge about the supreme nature of the Lord, they engage in devotion service. And Krishna personally endeavors to help them get out. So that is the only way by which one can attain eternal service unto the Lord. Therefore, devotion is the only way to attain the lotus feet of the Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Brahma says to Lord Krishna, Jnane prayasa mudapasya namanta eva jivanti san mukharitam bhavadiya vartam sthane stita shrutigatam tanuvang manobhir ye prayasho jita jito yasitais trilokyam. Lord Brahma said, O my Lord Krishna, a devotee who abandons the path of empiric philosophical speculation aimed at merging in the existence of the Supreme and engages himself in hearing your glories and activities from a bona fide sadhu or saint who lives an honest life in the occupational engagement of his social life, can conquer your sympathy and mercy, even though you are ajinta or unconquerable. In order to further clarify prayasa, Lord Brahma says, Shreyas Srutim Bhakti Mudasyate Vibho Klishyanti ye Kevala Bodha Labdhaye Tesham Aso Kleshala Eva Shishyate Nanyad Yathastu Lat Tushavaghati Nam. My dear Lord, devotion service unto you is the only auspicious path. If one gives it up simply for speculative knowledge or the understanding that these living beings are spirit souls and the material world is false, he undergoes a great deal of trouble. He only gains troublesome and inauspicious activities. His endeavors are like beating a husk that is already devoid of rice. One's labor becomes fruitless. The philosophy of monism does not originate in the absolute truth. It's only a demoniac provision. Glorification of the knowledge of one's relationship with the Lord is often heard. It's often heard means it is often mentioned in the scriptures. Give me 1 minute. Just a minute. I just need to trace out the original for this. Every now and then I need to see the original. The exact expression by Bhaktivinoda is, तबे जे संबंध ज्ञाने प्रशंसा सुना जाए, सही ज्ञान अति पवित्र और सहज, ताहाते प्रयासे प्रयोजन नाय. Which literally means, when we hear in the scriptures about a praise for Sambandha Gyan means knowledge of one's relationship with Krishna. Say Gyan Ati Pavitra or Sahaj. That knowledge is understood to be extremely pure and natural to the soul. Tahate Prayase Prayojan. There is no need for over endeavor in order to realize Sambandha Gyan. That knowledge is pure and spontaneous. There's no need of prayasa. The knowledge given in the Chatushloki, the 4 main Bhagavatam verses, is Achintya Bheda Bheda, inconceivably simultaneously one and different. The truth of the relationship with Krishna being Achintya Bheda Bheda is taught in the 4 main verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. The 4 main verses of Srimad Bhagavatam were spoken by Lord Krishna to Brahma, and they're recorded in the 2nd canto, 9th chapter. That's where you come across that. This knowledge is naturally dormant in the heart of the living entity. The Lord is like a spiritual sun, and the living entities are like molecular particles of the sun's rays. The living entity cannot remain in his constitutional form without being subordinate to the Lord. Therefore, servitorship of the Lord is his constitutional duty. Cultivation of this constitutional duty is the nature of the living entity. This is the spontaneous, devoid of prayasa dharma. This is the spontaneous dharma or duty of the living entity, meaning that it is devoid of over endeavor. Although in the conditioned state, this dharma is almost dormant and is awakened by sadhana or spiritual practice, still the prayasa found in devotional practices is not like that found in the paths of karma and jnana. If one takes shelter of the holy name with some respect, then within a short time, the obstacles due to ignorance are removed and one's constitutional happiness is reawakened. This is a theme that we repeatedly come across in the teachings of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. If we simply follow Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, as recorded in Chaitanya Charitamrita carefully, then very soon one can overcome all of his obstacles and he can make tangible spiritual progress. And therefore he prescribed the pathway of Namashraya Bhakti, where we increase our quality and quantity of chanting. And we should remember that he presented this for Grihasthas. Those days, Grihastha only means a congregational devotee, Grihastha. For them also he presented this, and for them also he says that they can, very soon they can overcome anarthas. But if one gives a place to Jnana Prayasa, then he has to suffer more. And if Jnana Prayasa is announced in the association of devotees, then it is a devotional endeavor. The Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Mayavesha Manoyemam Niti Yukta Upasate, Shraddhaya Parayopeta Stemi Yukta Tamamata, Yet Vaksharam Anirdeshyam Avyaktam Paryopasate, Sarvatragam Achintyam Cha Kutastam Achalam Dhruvam, Sanniyam Yendriya Gramam, Sarvatra Samabuddhaya, Te Prapnuvanti Mameva Sarvabhuta Hite Rataha, Leshodhikatarastesham, Avyakta Sakta Chetasam, Avyakta Hi Gadirdukham Dehavadhir Avapyati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, those who fix their minds on my personal form and are always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith, are considered by me to be most perfect. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, unchanging, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all, at last achieve me. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. The idea is, impersonalism is never a goal Impersonal realization is never a goal, ultimate goal, according to the conclusions of Vedic knowledge. But there is a pathway of coming to the point of pure devotion service unto Krishna that is rooted through impersonal realization. There is a pathway by which one can first attain Brahman realization and then increase his engagement in devotional service, attain Paramatma realization, and then increase and then come to the point of full devotional service, then attain Bhagavan realization. That pathway exists. It is the indirect pathway. It takes several lifetimes. The direct pathway is you give up everything. You give up sinful activities, you give up family life and other forms of dharma, and you directly engage in devotion service. You engage in the study of devotion service, you engage in the practice of devotion service, and the propagation of devotion service. That's it. Devotion service means Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Paranam Pada Sevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atma Niveda. Highly demanding, but it very quickly leads to Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, Bhagavan realization, all in one go. But for those who cannot do that, then you have these long methods. But the long methods are also more difficult. They are more difficult. Therefore, Krishna discourages them. In karma prayasa, there is also no benefit. In the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Dharma swanushtitah pumsam vishvaksena kathasviya notpadayad yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. Therefore, karma prayasa, the endeavor to over-endeavor to engage in karma, is contrary to devotional principles in the same way as jnana prayasa. The conclusion is that karma prayasa and jnana prayasa are very detrimental. Most of the people who engage in the activities of the jnana system, they only want to attain impersonal Brahman realization. In Kali Yuga, they are Mayavadis also. And Mayavada is offensive, so they cannot attain Brahman realization also. Previously, theoretically, it is possible to engage in a combination of the jnana system and bhakti system in such a manner that you can attain Brahman realization. But even that is very, very difficult. It's very difficult. And anyway, it does not bring you to the point of pure devotion service unless you want it. Unless you want it. Similarly, karma prayasa, over-endeavor to engage in the activities of the karma system, is generally engaged in to attain a superior material benefit in one's next life. It is actually to earn punya, pious credit. Pious credits is like money. You can earn it, you can spend it. When you earn it, then in the next life you get Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shri. You get a good birth, you get opulence, you get good education and training, and you attain beauty, with all of which one can enjoy materially. So most of the people who engage in the activities of the karma system, Varnashrama Dharma, they are interested in that. On the other hand, one may engage in the activities of the Varnashrama system in order to purify their hearts. But even then, if one engages in the activities of the bhakti system to purify their hearts, then they would progress further. They would progress much faster. The conclusion is that karma prayasa and jnana prayasa are very detrimental. But a devotee who desires to properly pass his life still accepts his duties according to Varnashrama, as those duties are favorable to devotion service and counted as part of devotion service. All these activities are no longer called karma. In these activities, the Swanishta devotees or devotees addicted to, no, this is not the meaning of Swanishta. The Swanishta devotees bring karma and its results within the realm of devotional service. The Parinishita devotees perform pious activities that are not contrary to devotional principles only to attract people. The devotees who are nirapeksha or neutral accept activities favorable for devotional service without caring for popular approval. सकल कर्म ओके इहार मध्य स्वनिष्ठ भक्तगण कर्म और कर्मफल के भक्तिर अनुगत करें परिनिष्ठित भक्तगण केवल लोक संग्रह भक्तिर अविरोधे कर्माचरण करें निरपेक्ष भक्तगण लोकापेक्षा त्याग करिया भक्ति अनुकूल क्रिया स्वीकार करें. Okay, now Swanishta, Parinishthita and Nirapeksha, these are three different types of devotees that are often referred to by Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana in his writings. The Swanishta devotees take several lifetimes to attain the abode of the Supreme Lord, but they tangibly make progress, though it is very, very slow. The Parinishthita devotees, they attain the Supreme Lord in one lifetime. Nirapeksha devotees, faster than that. The Nirapeksha devotees abandon both adharma and they abandon all kinds of dharma, including family life. They simply and exclusively engage in devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. That is the only thing they do. They don't do anything else. In other words, the Nirapeksha devotees have accepted Krishna as their only life. The Parinishthita devotees, most of their time is spent in the direct activities of devotional service. Manmana bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. That is what they give most of their time for. Little bit of their time is spent on yat karoshi, yadasnasi, yad juhosi, dadasi, yat tapasyasi kauntaya, tat kurusha madarpanam. These set of activities. But that also they're doing it in order to benefit others, in order to attract others into the field of devotional service. The Swanishta devotees, most of their time is spent in carrying out this injunction. Yat karosi, yad asnasi, yad juhosi, tadasiyat, yat tapasyasi kauntaya, tat kurusha madarpanam. And they spend some time every day in fulfilling the instruction, Manmana bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. If you carefully observe, you'll notice that the Swanishta devotees have accepted Krishna into their life. They have put Krishna in their life. They have brought Krishna into their life, into their lives. The Parinishthita devotees have brought Krishna into their lives and they have placed Krishna in the center of their lives. The Nirapeksha devotees have brought Krishna into their lives. They have kept Krishna as the center of their lives and they've removed everything other than that center. So Krishna alone is their life. Therefore, the Nirapeksha devotees, they progress very, very fast. The Parinishthita devotees attain Vaikuntha at the end of one lifetime. The Swanishta devotees also attain Vaikuntha after the end of several lifetimes. And when they go through, their whole pathway is described in the scriptures. After several lifetimes, they become qualified. The Nirapeksha devotees, they can attain Goloka Vrindavan and so on. And they attain Prema Bhakti, which is a state of Samadhi. And they attain that highest perfection even before they die, even before they leave the body. You'll find further details in Govinda Bhashya, in Bhagavad Gita and so on. Jnana Prayasa and its resultant prayasa for the liberation of merging with the Lord are extremely contrary to devotional principles. If Ashtanga Yoga Prayasa aims at mystic powers and liberation, then it is also extremely contrary to devotional principles. The rules for devotional practice and the knowledge of the living entity's relationship of simultaneous oneness and difference are most natural and therefore devoid of prayasa. This type of activity and knowledge is only accepted as a means. If they are accepted as the goal, then they become the source of fault. I will explain this further under Niyamagraha. In other words, if one accepts the activities of the karma system, one follows Varnashma Dharma. The woman follows Tri Dharma. The man, he follows Varna Dharma, Ashrama Dharma, and they do it very strictly. And they have accepted Krishna into their lives. Then they will attain purification of heart, and they will also attain the benefits of having carried out their respective dharmas. But still, because the goal is to come to the point of full devotion service, that can be accepted. That engagement in the karma system. Similarly, if the jnana system is accepted as a means, not as the ultimate goal, then that also can be considered okay, because it brings about renunciation in the mode of goodness, which can be favorable for spiritual progress. The hard labor for activities like visiting holy places is prayasa, over endeavor, that is unfavorable for devotion service. Now, holy places refer to holy places by visiting which one can attain pious credits. One can attain pious credits. One can attain punya. There are so many places where you simply go and take bath in a pond in a particular holy place. You get so much of punya karma, so much of pious credits you get. I will explain this further under Niyamagraha. The hard labor for activities like visiting holy places is prayasa, that is unfavorable for devotion service. If, however, one goes to the places of Krishna's pastimes with a greedy desire to awaken his ecstatic love for Krishna and to associate with the devotees, then this is certainly devotional service, not useless prayasa. But if we go to Navadip Mandal, to Vraja Mandal, to Kshetra Mandal, and associate with Sajatiya, Shreya, Snigdha, Mahattara Vaishnavas, if we associate with the Vaishnavas who are more advanced than us, who are affectionate to us, and who are spiritually like-minded, then it is not a useless endeavor. It is a good endeavor. There was one devotee in the Middle East who once told me, he lives there, and his extended family members live in India. And every time they have some family function, they call him to India. So he told me that every time he does that, he makes that function happen in some dham, Vrindavan dham or some dham, Mayapur dham or something like that. And he brings them there, makes them chant Hare Krishna and so on. So to go to a place of Krishna's pastimes with the desire to progress in Krishna consciousness, with the desire to become fully attracted to Krishna's lotus feet, under the guidance of more advanced devotees, that is a very, very nice. It's a very nice project, you can say. Following the vows of devotion service is not useless prayasa. They are all accepted as part of the process of devotion service. The prayasa for serving the Vaishnavas is not prayasa. For greed to associate with one's own peers destroys faults in the form of desires to associate with worldly minded people. The prayasa for temple worship is a spontaneous manifestation of the heart's emotions. The prayasa for activities like Sankirtan is only meant to open one's heart to chanting the Lord's holy names. It is therefore extremely natural. There is no need for prayasa and renunciation. Because when devotion to Krishna arises in the heart, the living entity easily becomes disinterested in everything other than Krishna. The Srimad Bhagavatam says, Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayyad Haitukam. By rendering devotion service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. When one gives up jnana, karma, and vairagya prayasa and engages in the devotional practices, then the obstacles of jnana, karma, yoga and vairagya cannot pull one down. Therefore, it is established in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhakti Pareshana Bhavo Viraktiranyatra Chaisha Trika Eka Kalaha. Devotion, direct experience of the Supreme Lord, and detachment from other things. These three occur simultaneously for one who has taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When we progress in Krishna consciousness, we experience an attraction to engage in various forms of Navavidha Bhakti. We attain direct experience of the Supreme Lord. This is actually verification. This is how you verify that the process that you're engaging in is actually proper. And detachment from other things. That means detachment from the activities of devotion service and detachment from direct experience of the Supreme Lord. In other words, you are no longer interested in any other activity, nor are you interested in experiencing anything else. So that will increase, step by step it increases. Rather, when we come on the other hand, when we commit offenses, then these three will decrease because you are regressing. Just as we progress in Krishna consciousness, we can also regress in Krishna consciousness if we do the things that we are not supposed to do. When a devotee humbly and without duplicity chants and remembers the holy names of Krishna, then real intelligence easily awakens in this way. I am spiritual particle, servant of Krishna. Krishna is my eternal Lord. Surrender to Krishna's lotus feet is my eternal nature. This world is like a traveler's rest house. In other words, it's a guest house. And to be attached to anything of this world will not give me eternal happiness. Like this, a practitioner soon attains all perfection. Jnana prayasa, karma prayasa, yoga prayasa, mukti prayasa, as well as over-endeavoring for material enjoyment, worldly achievements, and association with materialistic people are all hostile principles for one who has taken shelter of the holy name. By these different forms of prayasa, one's devotional service is ruined. The prayasa, the endeavor for attaining pratishtha or fame, is the lowest of all kinds of prayasa. Although it is the lowest, it is unavoidable for many. We engage in devotional service, but we also want to become famous. We want to become famous amongst non-devotees, or we want to become famous among devotees. We want to be respected by the non-devotees. We want to be respected by the devotees. This is the over-endeavor for pratishtha. And that also should be given up by the simple process of devotion. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami has stated in the Haribhakti Vilas, the concluding verse, Sarvatyage pyahe yaya sarvanartham vaschate kuryu pratishtha vishtaya yatnam masparshane varam. Even if one can give up all material desires, the desire for fame is very difficult to give up. This desire for fame, which is compared to stool, is the root cause of all anarthas. Therefore, one should seriously avoid touching this stool-like desire for fame. Na dhanam, na janam. I do not want admirers. I do not want people flocking around me. I don't want this. I just want people to flock around you. And without duplicity, without diplomacy, we should present this to Krishna, at least in front of Krishna. In privacy, we should be non-duplicitous and non-diplomatic. Pray to Krishna to help us progress from Shraddha to Prema, the way Krishna wants, the way he wants. Because we may want to progress in a particular manner, and Krishna may have a different manner, a manner that is already revealed by all the acharyas. So Krishna will force us. He will force us to obey the methodology given by the liberated acharyas. Prabhupada has given a particular method. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has given a particular method. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given a particular method. It is this method that Krishna will force us. He will make us bow down and make us accept. This instruction is extremely serious. The devotee. This instruction is extremely serious. The devotee should follow this exclusive duty with special care. A practicing devotee should pass his life in a natural occupation that is favorable to devotion service. And he should chant and remember the holy names with knowledge of his relationship with the Lord. One should have Sambandha Gyan. One must know. One must know the philosophy that has been taught in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Therefore, I repeatedly insist that we should all, first of all, read Prabhupada's books at least once, and then read his books regularly throughout our lives, because that gives you knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. And there are a lot of meticulous details there. And you do something wrong, then you may commit offense. And then again, instead of making a rapid progress, we delay. Knowledge is important. You may say knowledge by itself does nothing. But that is like saying that what is the use of one's eyes? Just by having eyesight, what can you accomplish? But without eyesight, it is very difficult to accomplish anything. Even though we accomplish things by moving our hands, feet, and or doing so many things. Without eyesight, you're very difficult to progress. It's very difficult to accomplish anything. So knowledge, reading Prabhupada's books, this is like developing eyesight. Eyesight by itself, you may say that it's not going to automatically give me the results. But with that, you will be able to do that which is required in order to attain the results. The result that we are looking for is progress from Shraddha to Prema. Unidirectional progress. Progress without regress, progress without regret. This process of worship without prayasa again has two different kinds of applications, for householders and for renunciates. Making Varnashrama favorable to devotion service, the householder should pass his life engaged in devotion service, free from over endeavor. They should earn and save only to easily maintain the family members. If they always remember that worshipping Hari is the only purpose of life, then they will never fall into illusion in happiness and distress, in good fortune and bad, in waking and sleep, in every condition. Worshipping Hari will quickly be perfected. So that is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's methodology for householders. For the renunciates, he says this, and the renunciate should not save at all. He should maintain his body by daily begging alms and thus engage in devotional service. They should not stay in any enterprise. By entering into enterprise, he is at fault. Enterprise specifically refers to enterprise which requires money with which he needs to survive. The more he worships the Lord, spelling mistake, with humility and simplicity, the more he will understand Krishna by his mercy. As stated by Lord Brahma in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Tatteno kampam susamikshamano bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam tadvag vapurvir hridvag vapurvir vidadhan namaste jivetayo mukti padesad dayabha. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, which is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Nothing is achieved by jnana prayasa, but one can know Krishna only by his mercy. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam says, Athapite deva padambujadvaya prasadaleshana grihite evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachanya ekopi chiram vichinvan. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. If one takes shelter of the holy names with humility, then by the mercy of the Lord, without over-endeavor, all knowledge of the absolute truth that should be known awakens within the heart of the simple devotee. This knowledge is never attained by independent endeavor. So we should not mistakenly think that chanting Hare Krishna is just meant for the unintelligent. Actually, it is meant for the most intelligent. It's meant for the most intelligent. But because we are not sufficiently intelligent, not attracted to the chanting of the holy names to the extent that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants us to be attracted to the chant. And therefore, he has provided us with so many other bhakti angas, all of which will, if we engage in them with the right service attitude, we will develop an attraction to the holy names of Krishna. Prajalpa, idle talking. Talking with one another is called jalpan or prajalpa. Nowadays in this world, godlessness is so prominent that conversing with others means godless talk. Therefore, it is not profitable for a practicing devotee to engage in jalpana, talking. There can, however, be many kinds of jalpana in the cultivation of devotional service. They are all auspicious for the devotees. Srila Rupa Goswami has written in his Karpanya Panjika Stotra, Tathapyasmin kadachit Mamadhishau Nama Jalpini Avadya Vrinda Nistari Nama Bhaso Prasidattam. Devotees recite the purport of this verse in the following words. Tathapiye Dina Jane Jadi Nama Ucharane Nama Bhas Korilo Jibone Sarvadosh Nivaran Dohunam Sanjalpan Prasadis Proceed Dvijane. While chanting the holy name of the Lord, if a wretched person in his lifetime achieves namabhas or a glimpse of offenseless chanting, then all his faults are destroyed and their lordships become pleased with him. Here the word Sanjalpan or Jalpa appears, which means one is vocally utilized, one is verbally serving the Lord. One is serving the Lord using one's vocal organs. Prajalpa means inappropriate engagement with our vocal organs, unnecessarily and in a wrong manner. Kirtan, offering prayers and reciting the scriptures are all jalpan. But when these are performed with a favorable mood and devoid of material desire, then they are all cultivation of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, the conclusion is this: all prajalpas that are unfavorable to Krishna's service are adverse to devotional service. The practitioner should carefully give up prajalpa. Prajalpa means useless talk. There is no fault in the activities of the Mahajanas. The Mahajanas have respectfully engaged in prajalpa favorable to devotional service. Prajalpa simply means talking. Talking, when that talking is favorable to spiritual progress, then that is okay. The Mahajanas have engaged in these kinds of activities. Mahajanas means the great souls, the great personalities, who are standard authorities. The Mahajanas have respectfully engaged in prajalpa favorable to devotional service, and this is our only duty. Sometimes puffed-up devotees advise that all types of prajalpa should be given. But we are followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. Being followers of Rupa Goswami, we will always stick to the path shown by the sadhus, who are following his instructions. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as quoted from the Skanda Purana, it is said, Samrigya Shreyasam Hedu Panthas Santapa Varjita Navapta Shramam Purve Yena Santa Pratasthire. One should strictly follow the easy path that the previous Mahajanas have accepted. That path bestows great auspiciousness and is devoid of all misery. Our Mahajanas path is that which was shown by Srila Vyasadeva, Sukadeva Goswami, Prahlad Maharaj, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his associates. We are not to leave aside that path to follow the instructions of new, puffed-up devotees. So this happens all the time. And this has happened, does happen, and will happen. You'll always come across somebody who's discovered something great, who's come up with a great brainwave. Just yesterday, somebody was telling me, we should not be bothered about following all these dharma shastras and all. If you don't follow the teachings of the Vedic scriptures as they were demonstrated by Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and so on, and you think you know better how to implement the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, and that's another way that you are setting aside the path shown by the Mahajana. Krishna consciousness is being demonstrated and is applied in a particular manner. Otherwise, it will not produce the results. Now, of course, if you are not interested in the results of devotion service and you want to be in a fantasy that I'll do my best and when I die, I'll definitely go back to Godhead. And you group up with similar people in the mode of imagination, the mode of ignorance. It's a different thing. If you want to actually progress in Krishna consciousness and want to attain anartha-nivritti, want the 6 urges to reduce and become zero, if you want to progress in the pathway as shown by Srila Rupa Goswami, by Srila Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrita, there's only one way, and that way is the standard way. Sadhu Marganugamanam. The Mahajanas have respected that prajalpa which nourishes devotion to Hari. We will discuss this in the appropriate place. Godless prajalpas are impediments to devotional service. They are of many types: useless talks, arguments, gossip, debates, fault finding in others, speaking falsehoods, blaspheming devotees, and worldly talk are all called prajalpa. Now he takes up each of this one by one. Useless talk is extremely detrimental. Practicing devotees should discuss topics of Lord Hari in the association of other devotees and remember Hari's name, form, qualities, and pastimes in a secluded place without uselessly wasting time. So notice this. Practicing devotees discuss about Krishna in the association of other devotees. And in a secluded place, they must engage in the remembrance of Lord Krishna's name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so on. And one should not uselessly waste one's time. Once we lose time, it's not possible to get it back. Time is very, very valuable. If we utilize our time in devotional service to Krishna in the form of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Satyam, Atmanivedanam, then we can progress in Vairagya, Vidya, and Bhakti. Otherwise, we regress. We cannot have it any other way. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattas sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita matchitta mankata prana bodhayanta parasparam kathayantascha mam nityam dushyanti cha ramanti cha. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotion service and worship me with all their hearts. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So they are very much interested in engaging in devotion service unto Krishna, so to speak. Also in the Gita, they said, Satatam kirtayanto ma yatantasya dridamrata namasyantasya ma bhaktya nityayukta upasati. Always chanting my glories, indulging with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. I got cut. I'm back. Just a minute. Just a minute. Just a minute. There's some work going on in near my office room, so I have to have a different place. Just tolerate this. In this way, the practicing devotee should cultivate unalloyed devotion. Cultivate means grow, just as you cultivate a crop. In that way, it grows. If they spend their days and nights uselessly talking with materialists, then the Lord's instruction, always chanting mind glories, will not be followed. In newspapers, there is so much useless talk. For the practicing devotee to read newspapers is a great loss. But if there are topics about pure devotees described in the newspaper, then that can be read. I think that most of us will agree, much of our Facebooking and so on is just a tsunami of prajalpa. It's absolutely unnecessary. You have enough things. What's in your mind today is actually a question that nobody needs to be asked. But if there are topics about pure devotees described in the newspaper, then that can be. After finishing their meal, mundane people normally smoke and engage in useless talk with other godless people. It is certainly difficult for them to become followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. Reading novels is the same. But if one gets a novel with a story like that of Puranjana in the Srimad Bhagavatam, then reading that is not an impediment, rather it is beneficial. That would be good. If the entire Puranjana episode could be brought out into a book. The Puranjana section is good. Argument is a prajalpa that is averse to devotional service. Of course, here argument refers to this type of argument which is either jalpa or vitanda. There are different types of arguments. There is one type of argument which is actually an explorative discussion. That is called vada. Technically, it is one of the different types of debates. But in the real world, we cannot even call it a debate. It's like two people trying to understand, studying the same subject, and they're presenting different ideas to understand each other. So it is more of a discussion. Whereas this is an intellectual quarrel. Sort of argument that he's discussing is actually intellectual quarrel. That is of two types. One is called jalpa and the other is called vitanda. In vitanda, I simply try to point out how you are wrong. In jalpa, I simply try to prove how I am right. Argument is a prajalpa, that is adverse to devotion service. All the arguments of the followers of Nyaya and Vaisheshika are simply godless quarrels. They do not yield any result other than wasting the mind's strength and increasing one's restlessness. I will also say that academic studies also waste the strength of one's intelligence and increases one's restlessness and basically increases one's doubts. In the Vedas, it is said, Naisha Tarkena Matir Apaneya. This intelligence cannot be attained by argument. The living entity's proper discretion is eternally established in his natural intelligence, the intelligence of the soul. That discretion naturally flows towards the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. But by arguing about directions, places, mistakes, and illusions, the heart becomes tough. Then natural discretion no longer remains. By accepting the Vedic Dashamul instructions and arguing accordingly, one's mind does not become wicked. Dashamul is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's own 10-point summary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings on the basis of Vedic scriptures. He uses this framework repeatedly, and we will see that in Bhakti Aloka itself. So if you argue according to the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then your mind will not become wicked. Your intelligence will not be wasted, your restlessness will not increase, and your doubts will not increase. What is good, what is bad, when such deliberations are based on the Vedas, that is no longer Prajalpa. There was a time in ISKCON, I must say, in the 80s and 90s, when at the end of a Bhagavatam class, when there was somebody coming up with an idea and somebody else coming up with an idea, they would just quote from Prabhupada's books. And generally, that was the end of the argument. Because somebody, I may come up with an idea that comes from my intelligence, or you may come up with an idea from your intelligence. But when the conclusion is brought in from Prabhupada's books, then we all accepted that as the end of the argument. That's because it settles it. But ultimately, we need to accept something as being axiomatically true. Even for logical argumentation, you need to accept the premises as being axiomatically true, at least on a provisional basis. So, logical argumentation by itself cannot demonstrate what is meant to be accepted as axiomatically true. Therefore, in the Vedic system, we accept the Veda itself as being bona fide, valid. Everything presented in the Vedic scriptures, the 4 Vedas, and in the Dharma Shastras, such as Manusmriti, the Puranas, such as Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and so many Vedic literature, authorized Vedic literatures, we accept that these teachings are valid. We understand them, we may not understand them. But the Vedic scriptures also, the Vedic system also has a methodology with which we can understand the Vedic teachings. Provides a methodology with which we can understand the Vedic teachings. If we follow that, then we can understand what is right, what is wrong. But if we ignore the Vedic teachings and we try to understand what is proper, what is improper, you'll never come to a conclusion, an objective conclusion, an objective, valid conclusion, which is beneficial for everyone at all times, all places, all circumstances. That is why in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given the instruction, Ataya Bhagavata Karaha Vichar, study Srimad Bhagavatam very scrutinizingly. Discussions to establish the knowledge of one's relationship with the Lord are not prajalpa. Those who conquer the assembly by useless arguments do not reach any conclusion. Therefore, it is certainly one's duty to give up such logicians' association. This is confirmed in the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Sri Vasudeva Sarvabhauma, who said, Tarkika Srigar Sange Bhev Bhev Kwari, Sei Mukhe Eve Sauda Kohi Krishna Hari. In the association of the jackals known as logicians, I simply continue to bark a resounding Bhev Bhev. These are the sounds of a jackal. Now from the same mouth I am chanting the names Krishna and Hari. Now he was chanting Hare Krishna. Logicians have been described in the Mahabharata. I mean, logicians who don't accept the authority of Vedic scriptures fully and who simply argue, they've been compared to jackals, because in the next life they'll be born as jackals. Tarkika Srigar, the logician jackal, the logician who's going to become a jackal. Okay, I'll stop with that. We look at some questions. What are the verse numbers of Brahma's prayers? 29. This is all 14th chapter of 10th canto. 29, 8. Yeah, 29 and 8. What is meant by Jnana Prayasa? When one endeavors to engage in processes by which one can realize that one is qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord. When one endeavors to engage in activities by which one can realize that one is qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, then those endeavors are called Jnana Prayasa. Jnana is the process by which we can realize our qualitative oneness with God, that we are qualitatively one with God. There are two elements here. One is we are quantitatively different from the Supreme Lord, and another is we are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord. He is Sachidananda, I am Sachidananda. And that is that kind of realization. That is the realization that I'm qualitatively one with the Supreme all-pervading being. It is granted by the Supreme Lord. He allows us to realize that we are qualitatively one with Him. This is called impersonal realization. But when one stops with that, or he doesn't want to go beyond that, then it becomes a problem. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, it can be accepted as a means, but it cannot be accepted as the ultimate goal. And there are plenty of people who want it as their ultimate goal only. They don't want anything beyond that. That's because they are so fried and frustrated and roasted by the variegatedness produced by material nature, Mahamaya. So from one extreme, they want to go to the other extreme. They don't want any variegatedness at all. And there are many scriptures which propound methods by which we can attain realization of the qualitative oneness between us and the Supreme Lord. These are known as the Jnana Shastras. These scriptures are more important than the Karma Shastras. The Karma Shastras are the lowest level of Vedic scripture. Karma Shastras, then Jnana Shastras, then Bhakti Shastras. The Karma Shastras come and say, listen to the Vedic scriptures. You can attain that kind of, you can attain experiences, you can attain things, worlds, which you can never ever attain if you don't accept Vedic authority. If you don't accept Vedic authority, you will just experience what the animals are experiencing. The ordinary pleasures of the body that you currently inhabit. That's all you get. And if you think there's nothing more than this, be happy as an animal, do like an animal. But if you want to investigate, if you want to explore, if you want to verify, we have procedures. So these scriptures present what is known as Karma Kanda, by which you can attain heavenly planets and so on. Higher than this are the Jnana Shastras, which come in and say, whether it is this lifetime or next lifetime. The next lifetime you are getting subtle material happiness. This lifetime you are getting gross material happiness. But then there's something else called spiritual happiness. The happiness when you realize that you are one with the Supreme God. Qualitatively one with the Supreme God. That is the greatest happiness. That is a spiritual happiness. Again, I got cut. Hopefully it won't repeat. So the Jnana Shastras are one step higher than the Dharma Shastra. Then we have scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, which teaches the highest process and also the highest goal, that there is something beyond realizing that we are qualitatively one with God. When we realize that we are quantitatively different from the Supreme Being, that realization is much, much higher, much higher. When you realize, in addition to, yes, we are qualitatively one with Krishna, but in addition to just being qualitatively one with Krishna, we are also quantitatively different from him. And when you engage in devotion service unto him with absolute selfless affection, then that is the happiness of Prema Bhakti, which is superior to the happiness of realizing that we are qualitatively one with the Supreme Being. It's something greater than just realizing that we are qualitatively one with Krishna. So there the Bhakti Shastras come. Okay, Prem Gosundar Prabhu. Wait. Prem Gosundar Prabhu. Can you wait? Something is wrong. I don't know, something went wrong. I'm not able to unmute you. Sorry. I think you should type your question. It's not, I'm not able to get it. Something is really wrong. Today alone. Nor can I lower your hand. Wait. Otherwise, we can just discuss on Telegram. I'm not able to lower your hand also. I think today is a bad day for me. No, sorry. I think we can. Discuss over Telegram. Panchadurvyashit Pasandibhyevacha Ridanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namaha. I'll try to find out what went wrong.